The person with the most influence in a system is the person who has the most behavioural flexibility. A lot of people will say to me, I should be able to be myself. There's books and books talked on authentic leadership. You've got to be yourself. You need a level of authenticity. So the other side of the coin, and that's why I say it's a paradox, it is a performance when you're in front of an audience, and you need to be able to perform to your role.
This is the episode for you if you want to build your confidence, learn more about how to influence people and build your capacity as a leader. This is Margo Halbert. On this episode, she's a prominent expert in the field of confidence, leadership and influence. It's a must listen. But I do thank you for taking the time because I know you're incredibly busy and I'm excited to pull some information out from you and just share it with everybody. Margo, I know and I've heard from other people that you're an absolute expert and gun in the world of leadership. That's kind of a bucket term. I'm not sure I even like the term leadership. But when we break it down, when I talk to people, they say things like, she's increased my confidence from 50 to 100. I feel like I can influence people when I'm speaking. And they're all traits, most of us, certainly in business, we want to hang on to. And we want to know, how do we do that? So I'm going to quiz you if you don't mind.
Go for it.
But before I do, who's Margo?
Yes.
Who's Margo Halbert?
Yeah.
What's the Margo Halbert story? How did you get to be the number one person who teaches people how to influence, be more confident and feel comfortable presenting?
So who's Margo? My first answer, I am a lifelong learner. I'm deeply curious. I love people. And I live life to the full. So in doing that, as we know, there's all the ups and downs. And it's been the ups and downs in life that I think have taught me a lot, and I've had amazing mentorship and teaching. So I keep learning from my mentors, but also from all the clients that I've had the privilege of working with. Can I share one thing with you, Hanif? Because it was just when you were talking, popped into my head.
Please.
Of why this work is so important. I was working with a client of mine that I've been working with for a couple of years now. And this particular client was initially going to be retiring, but in fact has taken a promotion. Anyway,
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah, still enjoying and things. And when in this new promotion, it's a leadership role, and this person's very excited to actually take that on. It's given this person some new new meaning and purpose. But the point this person made to me is she went to an event. It was somebody in industry, and this person was a client of this particular business. And the main person that was this person's contact was retiring. And somebody else stepped up to do the farewell. And this person said to me, felt let down from the experience.
Wow.
Yeah. And went, not the same. And I happen to know both of the people, the person retiring and the person that stepped up in that moment. And my client was, I know both of them, and both very capable people. Yet one clearly has, and my client was saying, clearly the other person was very charismatic, great gravitas, very personable. And so is the other person, yet they, in that public forum, couldn't perform.
So what's the difference?
And this is a question I get asked a lot. People say to me, is it, some people have got the gift of the gap and it's just a birthright, and I don't agree with that at all. because I have seen people who commit to it. They want to learn, they want to get better, they want to master it. And I've seen the people that have gone as again, this one I could share. I won't obviously say the name, but somebody in the Wesfarmers business development team, and this was a guy, I feel comfortable saying that because it was a long time ago, super smart, really smart. And anyway, I won't say where, but he ummed and ahed. He couldn't string, and so I was working with him at the time where he would have to go to the board and the executive to talk about a particular opportunity and didn't have confidence and couldn't impress upon the audience his ideas. And yet now, if you saw the role that he was in, you would go, oh my. And I could tell, he's not one. There are. Yeah, if I really did my homework, I could probably say 20 or 30 that I've worked with that are like that. Because they've committed to it. And when situations change, they have to learn to adapt. Just as you and I were just talking, you know, once upon a time a podcast was just audible. Oh, no, it's not. It's the audio and the visual now.
Yeah.
And how we perform on camera can be very triggering for people. And I've got a lot of clients in leadership roles now. They're constantly being asked to go on video, go on podcasts. And it can be incredibly triggering for them. So they have to learn the skills and commit to the practice, but also the execution.
I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't help it.
I love curious. I know you and I, we love curious.
Yeah.
We're both curious.
Well, you're born curious.
Yeah.
Culturally, I think we all have inbuilt biases.
Cool. Oh, absolutely.
So as an example off the top of my head, if you're a 6 foot something, blonde guy with big broad shoulders, you almost automatically have an advantage.
Of course.
Just because you look that way. That's we have to accept
and
that.
the evidence shows that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's data driven.
Yeah.
So you have an advantage. Are you saying that if we understand and learn the skills to be more confident, to present, to think through our ideas, that we can overcome those biases? Or maybe not overcome them, but we can be...
Navigate them.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that they no longer play a stronger role.
Yeah. What I say to people, Hanif, is yes, there's unconscious bias. It's an uneven playing field, whether you're playing football or whatever. And just as great leaders, you can't lead others if you don't know yourself. So it's the same when it comes to communicating and influencing. You need to know what perceptions people have of you as a human being and what unconscious bias might be there. And then you've got to make a choice to go, well, how am I going to navigate that? So I'll just give you a really simple example. As a professional speaker, if I'm at a conference somewhere and there's a few hundred people there and then you break them up for an exercise, talk to your neighbour about this. And then if Margo wants to bring the audience back, she might, can I have your attention? Now I'm practicing now to lower my pitch. But you hear it all the time, in a shopping centre and you hear someone go, can I have your attention? Or on a plane. We all just go, oh no, that's shrill. And I hear that a lot of people who are not aware of their breath. They're not aware of how their voice needs to sound. So as a female, my pitch is higher than yours. So I've got to work that little bit harder to lower my voice. So in that situation, Margo, if she hasn't had a lot of coffee, her voice is going up or she's running, her voice will go up. So if I haven't done the immediate breath work to go, can I have your attention back? I need your attention. And do it also in a fun way, because if I need your attention, people go, what are you on? So you've got to balance that. I might go up to a Hanif with a microphone and say, hey, mate, here, call your mates back.
What a great idea.
So I would use you in that situation to make it a little bit more playful. So you've got to use tools and techniques and use whatever you have in the system, because influence is a system, at the time.
Oh, I'd love to delve into that a bit more.
Yeah.
My mind is just blowing in all directions, Margo. Too many thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you continue for a minute.
All right. So coming back to, yes, perceptions and unconscious biases at play, and whether you – so I always remind people we all entered the genetic lottery. We got what we got. Some of us got height. Some of us got, on a spectrum of hormones of whether you're male or female or how you show up in a room and then how you dress. And a lot of people will say to me, I should be able to be myself. There's books and books talked on authentic leadership. You've got to be yourself. My answer to that is yes and. And my answer to that being yes and is it's a paradox. When you go into a room, you need to be authentic on the one hand. Now, authentic, people think you're not a jerk, you're not trying too hard. But if you're too authentic, and I talk to people all the time, they've been on a Teams call and somebody's slopping their cornflakes and half undressed when they get into a Teams meeting and you go, really? Too much information. So too authentic, not great. You need a level of authenticity. So the other side of the coin, and that's why I say it's a paradox, is it is a performance when you're in front of an audience. And the paradox of the other side is you need to be able to perform to your role. So your role might be, for many leaders at the moment, a lot of uncertainty out there. People are very nervous and they want to hear from the leader and have reassurance. So when I share with my clients about the role that they're performing, I then split that in two as well. So on the one hand, if you can keep the picture with me, you've got to be authentic and you've got to perform to your role. And that's a very delicate balance because if you're trying to be authentic, it can be too authentic. And then if you're trying to be to your role, you lose the authenticity. So that's a juggle that comes with practice. But come back to the role for a moment. Again, there's a spectrum there. But let's say there's uncertainty. Debtors haven't paid, cash flow's tight, commodity price down. People are nervous for their jobs, which a lot of people are at the moment. People want to hear from the leader. So your role then is to go out there with the troops, even if you haven't got information, but communicate in a way that says, we'll get there. We've got this. There is uncertainty. These are the steps we can take now. We'll navigate it. And in that situation, your style in that role needs to be more like a pilot. So if we're on a plane and the plane's bouncing up and down and we're all holding on like this, you don't want the pilot going, oh, that didn't quite expect that, did we? Oh, dear. Or a pilot that just stays at the front of the plane and says nothing. That's something I saw when the oil price dipped, and I was working a lot with Chevron. And it was interesting. Of course, if suddenly the oil price drops, you've got to reorganise your business. So a lot of uncertainty. A lot of leaders withdrew, didn't take the front foot to just say, hey, we're having discussions, we're here, team. Yes, there's going to be changes, but we'll manage this. They hid in their office. And that's not what you need. You need to be out there. So what's the other role? Sometimes you need to be the pilot and go. But sometimes you need more empathy, more consultative. You need to be trying to understand from your stakeholders, your client, whoever you're speaking to. You need to be more in a listening style. Well, if you bring the pilot out, all right, give me the data here. That's not going to work. So you have to flip your style and be more of that flight attendant. And that's what I'm talking about in the role of the way people communicate. There's a lot there that they need to manage between what they say and how they say it. So can you feel the complexity that goes on?
100%. And I think people in small and medium business would identify with this.
Of course,
because they wear all the hats
absolutely
all at once. And their role is constantly changing almost every conversation. So I'm pretty sure in SME land, we'll all be identifying with exactly what you're saying. And when I go and talk to my staff and something's not quite right, it's going to be a different hat.
Correct.
And a different style to when I'm talking to my major client that I'm trying to win a contract from.
Correct.
And different to how I speak with my bank, to
absolutely
my investors, whomever.
Correct. And the expectation and the perceptions. And that's the other thing I share with my clients, Hanif, is yes, we know that unconscious bias is there, but the question is, well, what can I do about it? And I'll give you a quick acronym that would help, and this is the work of my mentor, Michael Grinder. So if anybody wants to, Michael's based in the US, go and have a look, but I'll just give you a simple lens. You've got to remember your abs, your core.
Yep.
we like to think, I can feel my core, I've been going to Pilates. We like to think that people know us at our core. So as I'll just do the example here. When Hanif and I come in today, there's all Margo's history behind her. Yeah, very short history because I'm very young. Yeah, but history behind her, and same with Hanif. So let's say I was your client right now that you were trying to sell to or influence, yeah? I come into the room with all my history and Hanif does, and we like to think that people see us and perceive us and all our history. But of course they don't. We see ourselves from the inside. Others see us from the outside. So when you are going into a meeting or a situation that you want to influence, first of all, don't fool yourself that people know the real you. They won't know your value. They won't know the technical expertise that you've got. They're going to assess you and judge you on perception. And the key levers you've got to influence, ABS, is an acronym. Your appearance, your behaviours and your style. And the appearance, people go, oh, I should be able to turn up. Again, relevant examples. As you're aware, I've been spending a bit of time in one of our public hospitals. And for a week now, we've had a young doctor, and when you're in a public teaching hospital, you can tell the differences. And we had a young doctor come in about a week ago, and it was a female, but she's got red strips here. And I don't know, and you go, no judgment. I'm sure she's very competent. Yet, on top of the young, and then that, I go, what sort of judgment is that she makes that choice? And it took away her credibility. And just this morning we had a different doctor come in, and he just owned the room instantly. And being on the receiving end of that, we were listening to his opinion.
And you feel more comfort, don't you? You feel more secure when your perception is this person's got it.
Yeah. And I just use the analogy, and maybe this next time you're talking to your banks or your customers, is you go in and you mentally use the metaphor, these people are passengers in my plane. And my role is to be both the pilot and the flight attendant. Pilot in a moment flight attendant when they're first in, you're warm and welcoming, asking questions. But when asking your advice, and what do you think, you need to be that pilot.
Sage advice.
Yeah.
How do people get past the bias perception? Because I think most people are aware of the unconscious bias that our culture holds. And I know people, their dialogue is, it's unfair.
Yeah.
And it seems very hard for them to focus on what can I do when they're focusing on it's not fair, what can't I do, I'm a victim.
Yeah.
And I actually see a lot of people like that.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Well, actually I don't, because the people that come to my training courses,
well, they're purposeful, aren't they?
They are. So, I mean, there's occasionally you get some, but it's a smaller amount. Yeah. I would agree. And again, if you're going to have influence, know thyself, and influencers know control the controllables. And, you know, as an example, there'll be people that I work with. I love working with people like this who English is their second language. They work really, really hard to communicate. I go, good on you. I've got another story there about an amazing lady one time that I might be able to share, but who they really want to try to do what they need to do to be heard and understood, and they make the effort. But if you're just going, whoa, it's not fair, well, you'll be on the sidelines.
So for those people, you've got to get over that first.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The three things I teach, or no, it's not the three things I teach. The frames I ask people to listen through when we're going through this work. In order to influence, you need to be thinking about three things. What's your message? And you'd like to think that that's relatively straightforward.
No, it isn't.
No.
My Lord.
No, it's so hard. Yeah.
I spend time with my team every single week. And almost every communication they send me to say, what are you talking about? What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah. Tell or ask, Hanif. Because also, what do you want to say? You know, sometimes your intention needs to be say nothing. Or what are your intentions is ask what questions are you going to ask. So it's your intention around the messaging is one area. The second area is how you communicate, all your nonverbal behaviours and styles. And we know there's a range, just as there's a range of humans, there's a range of styles. But we also know there are some key things in our behaviours that make a difference, like pausing. A lot of time I'm just coaching people to use shorter sentences and pause more.
Simple, isn't it? Seemingly. But there are some core behaviours that most people don't practice, such as your posture, your breathing, and using these things, your hands. So that's the second area around the non-verbal behaviours, to be very intentional about those. And again, they make a difference. Which style? Are you being the pilot at the moment? What behaviours would a pilot use? What behaviours would a flight attendant use? The third area, which segues back to your bit about being the victim, is what's your level of confidence? And that's the key thing that people ask me for. They come to me and they go, I need to feel confident. Yeah. And it's true, because you can't influence. If you don't trust yourself, you can't expect others to trust your message and you. Oh, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, because they're unconsciously going, whoa, something's off here. And the question is, okay, well, tell me, I want confidence. And I go, well, I wish I had my magic wand. I can't give you confidence, because confidence is an internal paradigm. It's the difference between, so Hanif, if you were going in to meet with an important client or doing a big speaking engagement, a TED Talk or something, your confidence level is the difference between your internal perception of your skills and ability and what you believe the opportunity requires. So if you think it's the skills required to do the task are up here and you think your skills are down here, if there's a big gap, what happens?
You don't feel confident.
No, you avoid or, anxiety just goes, right? So what I do, because I say to people, you own confidence. Anybody who says to you, I can give you confidence, no, they can't because you own it, right? So what I help them to do is to change their internal view of their skill and raise it up, and primarily do that by giving them simple behaviours that they can practice and then capturing that on video so they can see it and review it. And then also, because they're in a group environment, bring down their perception of what it takes to do the task. So I teach them how to do it. So we bridge that gap. So then they're more confident to go out and have a go. And then they use repetition to master it. And then they come back to me because they get promoted and they go, oh, now I've got to do this, Margo. And I go, yeah, happy days. And then we work on that.
So you're building trust in yourself by actually doing.
Correct. That's what you've got to do. But if you don't repeat it and practice it and get feedback, you're never going to get better.
Mm.
So you have to do the work. As you know, Hanif, there's no shortcut. We don't have abs if we don't do Pilates and sit-ups and whatever we're doing. We get blubber. And there's no magic fix.
But we can all do it.
Absolutely.
So it is a choice.
It is a choice. And oftentimes the gap that lets people down is that internal. Your brain's your biggest muscle. So I've seen people absolutely knock it out of the park because when they're ready to perform, they perform. And equally, I've seen people who've undermined themselves. I learned that from doing stand-up comedy. Did I ever tell you I did stand-up comedy?
Really?
Yes. I did, yes. Yes, well.
Well, tell me a little segue about that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Well, it was, because I hang out with my professional speaker buddies, and one of them said, oh, he's going to do stand-up comedy, 6 weeks course. So, off I trot. And, of course, I got there and, I don't watch TV. I don't, anyway, I live a weird life. But the first question was, what comedians do you follow? And I went, I don't. And there was about a dozen of us there. It was over at the Brisbane Comedy Club, like people in radio and stuff like that. And they were really smart people and they had a lot of experience and new comedians. And we went every Thursday night for 6 weeks, and the last night was a live performance. So, roll forward. So all the way through it, I'm going, oh, Margo, you're not very good at this. But I kept having a crack. But I can, the majority of the people that I was in the group with were far better than me. Far better at me at doing the lines and the script and just taking on that learning. Anyway, roll forward. We got to the last night of the performance night, and 2 days before I was in my mind going, I don't really need to do this. I've got the learning and not perform. But I went there and did it. But it was really interesting. The people and we got put in the little green room. The people that were much better than me, large majority of them melted down in the green room before they went out and performed.
How come?
They just got nervous.
Were you nervous?
Yes, of course I was, because it was an unfamiliar experience. I'd never done it before. So yes, yet not crippling. And I actually enjoyed the performance because that's what I teach people to do. Not that I want to find the video and re-watch it, but I probably should at some stage.
Share it.
Yeah. It's there somewhere. Oh, my sister and brother-in-law rocked up. God, they came to watch. But it was just interesting that it didn't matter how you perform. There was not brain surgery yet. A number of them melted down before going out and then didn't perform to their potential.
So do we put We imagine things, don't we? We imagine a level of importance of something, which in this case I imagine is, look, it's just for fun.
Just for fun, yeah.
But we imagine the level of importance and how people view us. Our identity might be attached to, oh, if I don't do really well, it means this about me.
Me, yeah. And it's often, their own expectations. And actually, just saying that, Hanif, that reminds me, it's when I work with a lot of people, say lawyers more so and engineers, but it's probably the lawyers who are absolutely trained for being exact. Oh, and I've worked with a number of doctors as well, going for their surgical, because they've got to be able to perform, and a lot of them, so they have technical knowledge. So people that have high technical knowledge and can write and share their thoughts in that modality, but then when they have the performance aspect of it, they can lose it. So in written communication, if you're trained to be perfect, cover I have to coach them to go in an oral presentation or a face-to-face presentation. It's not about being perfect, and you've got to let all that go. So they're used to getting rewarded and, rewarded because they're perfect. But coming to this forum is very confronting because I have to let go of all of that.
Yeah, I can imagine how hard that might be.
Oh, very difficult. And what I say to them, is it hard? No, it's unfamiliar, because 99% of the time they're in this mode.
That's a great framing. I love that, because I often say there's nothing hard. But unfamiliar is a great way to frame it, because
it's unfamiliar.
That's what it is, isn't it?
I actually get people at the start of workshops to write with their non-dominant hand. And they go, oh, this is so hard, this is terrible. And I go, see all that internal conversation you're having or what you're doing and your struggle? That's just unfamiliar. That's why I do things a lot with my left hand.
I love that.
Yeah, just to practice. Yeah, so it's just unfamiliar.
That's even a great takeaway.
Well, also the thing, when something is unfamiliar, or again, think about it when you go to the gym or do something that you haven't done before, and again, I get people to do this, we hold our breath. We hold our breath.
What happens when we hold our breath?
Well, a number of things. So then we start shallow breathing. It can trigger amygdala hijacks and all those sorts of things. But managing your breath work is critical.
Tell me more about that, because that happens a lot in speaking, doesn't it? Even in conversation, if somebody's a little anxious.
Absolutely. It's one of the key things I have to coach people to do. So anybody who in the performance field, it doesn't matter whether you're an elite athlete or a performer or a leader going into what you perceive to be a hostile setting, we all have an automatic nervous system. That nervous system is going, oh, this isn't familiar. Classic. So for any of your listeners that might be going to speak at a conference or going to a client, I always say, go into a room or a space beforehand, because that reduces the amount of data points your brain has to deal with or your automatic nervous system has to deal with. So if things are more familiar, that's why we perform better if you bring a client into your own office versus going to their office, because there's less your brain has to deal with.
See, we could use that anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
If we're going to have a conversation with somebody that we think this could be uncomfortable, that might be a good coping mechanism.
And where are our hardest conversations? With the ones we love the most. And what's the thing that triggers them out of control? When we accuse one another of getting angry or whatever, it's because we're breathing high up here where we need to be breathing low. Low and slow with our breathing.
So we can. I've practiced this. I know.
Yeah.
You can switch, can't you? From
Absolutely.
being in a state of anxiety and frustration to calm just by taking a deep breath. And we tell our kids,
Yeah, take a deep breath.
take a deep breath.
But people say take a deep breath in. It's actually your out breath that relaxes you.
Really?
Yeah, it's all the yoga, Hanif. It's the yoga.
Yeah.
The yogas have been around for thousands of years. It's the breathing out, elongate. So even in a situation you've got a tense conversation with somebody, if you just shut up, keep your mouth shut, breathe out through your nose consciously.
My whole face relaxes when I do that.
Yeah, we all do, because it invokes the parasympathetic nervous system and it just calms the farm. There's a lot of, if Dr. Alan Watkins has got a couple of TED Talks on that, Mel Robbins, her podcast and her book's just out now, but she's taught for years that the pause when let's say you and I are in an emotional conversation and Margo just needs to take a moment to reflect on what Hanif is saying, then Margo needs to just shut her mouth and go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's just pausing. There's so many books on that,
Too many things to practice. Tell me a little bit about body language, because we've spoken about the role, understand or think about the message and the role you need to play. There's a little bit about breathing, and you said the body language and the posture is incredibly important.
Yeah. Let's circle back to, I said, manage your abs. So when people don't know you and the levers you most need to pull from a non-verbal perspective, and again, this is Michael Grinder's work, abs, appearance, behaviour, style. So I'll just cover the behaviour element now. Again, there's lots of behaviours, and people say to me, eye contact's the most important. I go, well, it depends. Because if you're delivering bad news, don't look at somebody when you're delivering it. So also cultural sensitivities. If you're Indigenous elders, then you don't look at them. So there's lots of things about eye contact. That's not one of them. So the 3 most important non-verbal behaviours to manage, overarching is your breathing. And I put breathing with pausing. Pause a lot, breathe. Of course, you're breathing. It's conscious breathing.
What is conscious breathing?
It's when you are actually consciously thinking about pausing, consciously holding your breath, consciously not saying anything, consciously going in and out with your breath to calm the body till you feel your shoulders go down. Yeah. And also not speaking as quickly. So if we're going into an unfamiliar situation or a high-stakes situation, and often, like, for example, board meetings, like the BHP board on an important subject, you've got 4 minutes.
That's not a lot of time.
Not a lot of time. And people are working on big projects. They finally get in front of the decision makers. They might have best 5 to 10 minutes at best. And they've done all this work and they want to shove it all in. So they get in there and we didn't manage that. They get in there and they want to share it all. So they go fast. And that's the worst thing you can do. So that's why that first point of what you want to say, you've got to pare that right back down to the essence of it.
I constantly talk to my staff about this. In fact, 3 weeks ago, we did a session on speak slower.
Slow.
So the data that I've read says that people understand only 50% of what we say.
Yeah.
At best.
At best.
So if we're speaking really quickly, how much are they going to understand?
Yeah.
And then I shared with my staff, if you feel somebody doesn't like you, because often that can be your perception, it may be that they just don't understand you and they feel confused and therefore they put the barrier, I don't want to deal with you. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that, I don't trust you.
Correct. Are your staff on phone or face-to-face?
Oh, combination of phone and video. And I said on the phone, it's even worse. I said never email.
No.
Email is your
follow up.
It's a method of communication to follow up and to confirm. But the conversation is so important.
So important, yeah. And coming back to that point of appearance, it's broader than that. It's how you look, but it's actually the visual channel that you communicate through. So it's, going slow and quieter at times. Yes, that helps, but also you've got to go, what's the visual mechanism you've got to communicate to the other person with? Because most of us take in information visually is our primary source. So if people are nervous and they're just going blah, 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 which is through the auditory channel, then it's coming through here and they go t-t-t-t-t. People can't understand it. So some of us, gross generalisation, but I do generally find that women more time will talk a lot more and men a lot less. Then if we're nervous and then we go blah, 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 people don't get it. Short, pause, check in, go visual with your messaging.
And if you have to be on the phone, I always say to my staff, you wear how you feel.
Yes.
So if you're on the phone, your disadvantage is people can't see you. They can't read anything. All they've got is what comes through, your ears and is projected by your voice. So if you're slouching, it changes the tone of your voice.
Absolutely.
And how you can project. And somebody does have an image on the other side.
Of course.
So that's all they get. And if they don't know you, that's your one shot.
That's it, yeah. So how you sound is just a function of breath coming up through your vocal cords. It's a vibration. So if you're leaning, and that's what we were talking about before, if you're leaning on a chair, even seated, I know these podcasts are done, seated, but I'd always be saying to my clients, stand for something that's important because you've got more energy in your voice. So I've got the stand-up desk. So if I'm doing things as much as I can, I will stand up for those important moments because you've got more energy then that you bring to the table. And if you're in front of an audience, they're sucking your energy. So you've got to be just that little, not over the top, but that little bit more than what they are.
Oh, I need to ask you this. Energy matching.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's a clanger, isn't it? Because if you're going to a room or in a situation where people's energy is low and you come in bright and bubbly,
oh yeah,
that's a mismatch, isn't it?
Correct. Totally.
So what should we do?
So don't assume people know, but rapport is when we have an energy match, and people teach mirroring and those sorts of things, not mimicking but mirroring, which is the right appropriate energy level. But I'd also come back to our original point. What's your role? So I'm typically doing that. So sometimes, particularly if I go to some of the mine sites, I'll, come in on, normally I'd always be in the room before, but on a mine site, it's not. You come in on the plane, they've been on shift since 5 o'clock that morning. They're in their chairs like this and, here's another day of training and their energy's like that. Now, if I walk in, just as you said, and go, hey, isn't this exciting? We're all here today. They will go, oh, God, another one of these people, right? So you have to start where they are, but a little bit higher. So you need to be that flight attendant in that moment, but also clearly the pilot. It's going to be okay. So I will be navigating that minute by minute. I'll look for people and I'll immediately be the flight attendant who might need to feel assured, or because they're scared. But for others who are going, here we go, I might be more of the credible pilot to go, this is going to be good. Let's get organised here.
You feel your way through it, don't you?
Absolutely. And something you said before, Hanif, some of your staff, they're going, oh, they don't like me. It actually has nothing to do with you. And the minute your attention is on yourself, you're crashing your plane. You got to be on, your attention in that moment needs to be so focused on your audience, your clients, the people in front of you. And what do they need? And you need to adapt to lift them up and move them, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to influence decisions, bring change.
I'm pausing because the importance of that is so incredible, because even if you've got no practice at presenting, if you just take the step of focusing on others instead of yourself, rather than thinking, oh, I'm nervous,
Yeah.
I'm coming to meet Margo for the first time, and if my attention is on Margo, I don't have the bandwidth in my brain to think about myself.
You don't. No.
Right? So it's a gift.
Yeah, it is a gift.
So if we switch from I'm nervous to, oh, I want to do this well for Margo, immediately I can't think of myself. There's no room.
There's no room. There's no room.
So my success level, I think, and you please correct me if I'm wrong, will immediately go up, even if I've got no practice in all the other modalities, just because I'm focused on you, and my propensity to be successful just goes up 10 notches.
Because you're intentional about doing what you need to do in the room. Because it's the same issue with people who have prepared. I've prepared my 300-deck PowerPoint and I'm going to shove it down your throats. No, because then that's all about, I want to deliver to you and go, look what I've done. No, you're in the room to meet their needs and take them on a journey. So it is very intentional.
I love the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it takes the pressure off a whole bunch of situations, because I actually don't know what you want. I don't know what's important to you. My job is to discover.
The best advice I was always given you said who was Margo, but I should share the journey, because my first career, Hanif, was an accountant.
No.
Yeah, it was. Have I not ever told you that?
No.
Oh, yeah. I know, go me.
Who would know?
I know, I don't even do my best. But so I did accounting, and then I was fortuitous as a 22-year-old to go and get the state accountant's job in West Perth for an IT company in the days of mainframes. Who knew, right? And I ended up selling mainframe. Yeah, but the path to that, as the accountant, I worked with the sales rep there, and that's what triggered my memory. Paul, who was amazing, he could sell fridges to Eskimos. Paul always said to me, Maggie, always remember this: 2 ears, 1 mouth. 2 ears, 1 mouth, which is something I have to always remember. But listen twice as much as you talk. Where some people will get into a room and go, well, what do I need to say here? Or what do I need to ask? Instead of really listening. So that's how I learned my sales skills and business development skills was working in IT.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Who would know?
Who would know? I know. So I say to people, we all have amazing careers, it's all these different careers that you go, oh, that's where I learnt. Yeah, I spent 12 years with Oracle Systems selling financial systems.
There you go.
Yeah, and
databases.
What
I really love about that is you're a practitioner. I know you've said you're a learner. You're a practitioner.
Yeah.
So you know it viscerally because you apply it.
And when we were talking before, Hanif, about can you learn these skills, absolutely you can. And whilst I can teach things to people, like all things, you do need the experience and practice to refine the skills and keep having a crack.
So there are so many levels that we could go down rabbit holes here, and I would love to, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
What would be the top few things you would say to people who have an interest in increasing their level of confidence and being influential? And by that I don't mean I want you to believe everything I say, because I don't feel that's influence.
No.
Well, actually, tell me, what is influence? How would you define it?
We touched very briefly on systems work, and there's a definition that I really like, which is the person with the most influence in a system is the person who has the most behavioural flexibility. And I'll give you an example with that. You have to really stop and think about that a little bit. So when you have a choice of behaviours, for example, if you're in a heated discussion, and I'll just give you a really quick one. People might relate to this, but it was when a child in my family chose to use some behaviours that teenagers do sometimes at a family gathering that wasn't quite warranted. So Margo, the human in that moment, I remember, very wanting to really bark back. And as we know, when we bark back, it's just emotional intelligence. That's what emotional intelligence is. It was Margo could have barked back in that moment and she chose not to, seething, but had to calm herself down to then choose later on to have a conversation with that person about that event and to discuss it. But we all know many times we just go back. So we are not influencing the system in that moment because we didn't have conscious and intentional choice about our behaviours.
Deep.
Yeah, it is emotional intelligence. And when I say that, a range of behaviours is the people that I work with that are masterful and intentional about this, they continue to add to their range of behaviours. So in this situation, not only can I consciously go, I'm going to do this, I actually have the skills to be able to do it. So knowing and doing, as we know, is two different things.
So the system, when you talk about the system, you're talking about ourselves.
Yeah, but people, humans, we operate in a system. Our family's a system. Our team's a system. Where we are here today is a system. So it's working out in that system, which is, and the Kapucha dolls, you've got a system within a system. And the more, again, I'll give you an example. I'll say to people 5 years ago, if they'd come to one of my workshops and I said to them, engineer, lawyer, accountant, in your skill set of knowing technically what to do, you also need to be able to perform as a TV presenter. They would have laughed at me and said, get lost, Margo, that's not relevant. I don't need that skill. But here we are in May or June 2025. What's most of us doing? Presenting on camera all the time. We don't think about it. It's more familiar now. But do you remember what we were all like 5 years ago trying to work out how to do it? Now we don't. It's pretty routine. And that's because we've adapted. We've got more experience. So in that system, we can perform. What I'm seeing with the senior leaders I work with, they're going into a lot of systems and having to quickly change. For example, in the mining companies, they're dealing with a lot of IR issues now. They're dealing with government. They're then on camera. They're then in front of their workforce. They're then in front of their board. They're then in front of their exec team. The roles they're playing. And they've got to very quickly switch.
That is a hell of a skill set, isn't it?
It's a hell of a skill set. We all went to school. I've coached a number of principals of schools. So just think for a moment what a principal of a school or the head of a hospital has to deal with. But I actually think principals of schools, especially some of the private schools here, I think, wow, the audiences they get in front of. But leaders, we've got a new head of Chevron in Australia now and coming in a new head of Rio. Wow. I've got client at the moment running an operation, significant operation, and he said to me, Margo, in my workforce now, I've got very few Australians, like lived in Australia, they're new to Australia, English predominantly the second language. And that just brings another.
That's a huge element of change, isn't it?
Oh, massive.
How's he deal with it?
Well, that's why I'm going in there.
And I've taken you off on this huge tangent
Sorry,
elsewhere.
yeah. Bring us back.
I'll bring you back to for those who want to build their confidence.
Yes.
And become more influential.
Mm-hmm.
What are the starting points? What are the things they should be mindful of?
The first thing is to know that they own it. They own it. So they do need to be very intentional about their confidence level, the stories they tell themselves. I'd say read Atomic Habits by James Clear, his section on beliefs. I think that's massive. You know, do you believe you've got a seat at the table? Do you believe you're a work? And it's actually, we're talking about Steve Bartlett. Yes. You hear a lot of his beliefs come through and how they've changed. So confidence at a core level is, what do you believe about yourself? So do the work on yourself. Secondly, I'd say put yourself out there as much as you can. Now, to overcome fear or to build our muscle at something, you've got to stretch but not debilitate. So put yourself into situations that are not as familiar to you that stretches you. One, again, this was just a recent one. I work with a big organisation, and they are an incredible, I won't name it, incredible organisation, but they train all their senior leaders, and then I come back the following year and the leaders present to their exec. So they're an awesome organisation, and the execs see their talent and get great ideas. But one of these leaders, he was really nervous and he managed it, but he said to me afterwards, he goes, "Oh, phew," he said, "wow, that's really taxed me." And he said, "And you know what I've realised, Margo? It's the first time in 20 years, I've been in a real learning experience and challenged myself."
Wow.
Because he just said, I've been on rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And he was so invigorated and thought, whoa. So that's my second point to people. Put yourself out there. If you're cruising, you're atrophying, you're going backwards. So get out there and find things to communicate on and practice, whether it's in your workplace or communities or somewhere. And then the third thing is ask for feedback. Ask from somebody who's competent, though. Oftentimes I do find people give feedback to others, which is the stuff they most need to learn. But probably the best feedback, video yourself.
That's raw, isn't it?
Yeah, record your Teams meeting. Like the best practice, I was doing it with a client in the city the other day. One of the best things you can do is a mirror at home or in a lot of these offices. You know when you walk in and they're glass paned and you can see your reflection. Practice your opening there. Get some feedback and you can immediately see. Did we circle back onto the main behaviours? We talked the appearance. We talked about the breathing. But we didn't finish off posture and gestures.
No. Could we quickly?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Posture is very, very, very critical because it affects your breathing. It's how you look, all those things. So look at yourself in a mirror and ask yourself, does that posture resemble somebody I would expect from this role or that others would expect from this role? And just a little simple one, just don't lean on furniture, okay? I'll just give you a simple, don't lean on furniture, don't do this. Idea depends, and there's all depends on this, but don't lean on desks and stuff. But the third one, in a non-verbal sense, that you really need to think about is what you do with your hands. Because they're so visual, and as soon as you clasp them, that says to the other human, ooh, not comfortable. If people can't see your hands at so we've both had our hands on the table. If we have our hands under the table, unconsciously the other humans don't trust us.
You feel different.
Yeah.
Sitting in that posture.
Can you?
Actually, I can feel it.
Feel it. Yeah, yeah. And that's what I show people. So if you and I were negotiating and I said to you, Hanif, that's my final offer. Even better if I did something like, Hanif, look, I can understand there's been some issues. We understand that, we're resolving those. What I'd really appreciate a conversation now about is what would it take for us to move forward?
Oh, that was super powerful. When you were talking about the issues, you were looking at your hand over here, you weren't looking at me.
No.
So it wasn't it didn't feel personal.
Because if I said,
you brought me in.
Yeah, because if I said there's been some issues, eye contact.
Yeah, it's my fault.
It's your fault. Yeah. But if I just said, look, there've been some issues and we're dealing with them, what I'd really want to understand from you is what can I do to move it forward?
So you're helping me. Look, there's stuff happening over here. It's not necessarily your fault, but I'm not looking at you.
Yeah.
How can I help?
Mm-hmm. And I'm using hands too to spatially separate the concepts. So if you kept talking to me about the issues, I would keep going. So what I'm hearing from you, Hanif, the rates that we've had on the contract, that's not going to meet your needs now. I understand that. Where is there some flexibility in some of the terms we're talking about here?
Oh, you're good.
No, it's just practice. But that's the sort of thing that, and I find with people where they're going for a job interview and when I did stand-up comedy, that's where I learned it for myself. I had to remember my lines. This is a simple one. I teach people body before brain, body before brain. What do I mean by that? Your body will remember stuff before your brain does. So if Margo's trying to remember her lines or why she should get promoted, cognitively, if I keep going, God, what was it, Margo? What was it? She will forget. Not forget, and she won't necessarily do that, but she'll more struggle. But if Margo at home has practiced, the first reason is this, the second reason is this, and the third is that. So if I put my hands there, what was it? What was it? What was it? What was it? So when you're in the meeting and your adrenaline's going and Hanif says, so Margo, why should I appoint you? I go, glad you asked, Hanif. Well, the first reason is, oh dear, but it'll come.
Isn't that a weird human thing?
It's a weird human thing.
I use that in speaking now.
Yeah.
I don't need notes.
Don't use notes.
I don't need them now because I remember it somehow. But I think you've just taught me how.
Yeah.
And it's my body.
Yeah.
Tell me, and don't use notes. I see people still use notes.
Oh, no. And again, this area is all grey. I'm not going to say your ideal position is don't have notes. I agree for some things when you've got to, especially not Anglo-Saxon names, sometimes they're hard to say and you need some dot points. But I'm just working with somebody at the moment, again, a very senior leader, and he gave me video of one of his performances with one of his peers. And his peer was just blah, 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 blah. And he was technically correct. He wasn't holding his notes. It was one of those couch interviews, but he was reading from his notes, giving up with eye contact. And key to it, sort of taken away his notes, and I've shown him this structure that I share to try to remember the content. But one of the keys is to adopt a persona. So these roles that we were talking about, the flight attendant, pilot, This is something I have a lot of fun with people. In fact, this particular, no, I won't share that one. But what's a persona that you can use that, so when Hanif's going, let's say Hanif was speaking at a TED Talk and you've never done that before. If Hanif goes in as himself, he can have a lot of expectations on himself, but I would work with you and I go, Hanif, who do you want to really be out there? What's a persona for the person that's going to perform?
Oh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Now you've turned it on its head and it's not personal anymore.
Correct. So you've disassociated from it. So I might be saying to you, okay, you're going to be Steve Bartlett when you're out there, mate.
All right.
Oh, yes. See?
I get to be Steve.
Yeah, you get to be Steve.
Yeah.
But
all
see
right.
how it changes you?
Yeah.
It changes you. And so the chemical balance in your body and all those. So before you step into that performance opportunity, you're more disassociated and you have a bit of fun with it. And people always laugh with it. That persona thing has been transformative for many, many, many clients, including myself.
What an easy thing to do because we can all do it at any time.
At any time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, because in the abs, appearance, behaviour, style, that goes into the style thing a little bit. But if you just say pilot, flight attendant, that range, if you're intending and you're going in and you're going, I've got to remember this. What did she say? I've got to pause. Oh, my gosh. I need to remember to use my hands. I need to be a pilot. I need to be a flight attendant. Oh, my, max out. So you do all that in your practice mode. But before you walk in the door, you've got to drop all that. You've got to be incredibly intentional that it's about the audience and the journey you're taking them on. And having that persona mentally can really flick the switch for how you perform.
I love it. And it's fun too. Who
fun.
would have thought?
I know.
All this pressure.
Yeah.
And it can just be fun.
Yeah, can be fun.
Yeah.
And if you take that, we're not performing brain surgery and even, anyway.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Margo, I know you're incredibly busy. And I've gathered from this discussion you mainly work with C-suite CEOs, executives. Is that right or not really?
No. I work across the range. So in my workshops, I mostly have profession. Well, no, I don't. See, if I go to the mine sites, I'll have people who are working. You'll have a diesel mechanic who's a health and safety advisor, or they're a supervisor or superintendent. But typically, just because I've got a limit of how much work, I typically work with more of a leadership team, and that's probably my sweet spot. I love working with really smart people that just love to bring the best version of themselves, and how can we as a team and a collective be more effective. So that's probably my sweet spot. But I work with a range because you learn something from everybody. But the coaching that I do, yes, because I just have a finite capacity. So it's typically with senior leaders, and they're ambitious. So often, it's more ambitious people, and they're like, I want to be the best version of myself. Help me get there and get there fast. And it's a lot of fun.
And you do. Where do they find you?
Oh, I have my own website, and so margohalbert.com.au. And
we'll put that down below in Spotify and YouTube. You
can find me on LinkedIn. I don't do the whole social media stuff, but all my work is through referrals. That's just how it is. And, so I just love working with people that, I love the humans in people. And they're...
You do. You get joy from it, don't you?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I love hearing from people. But that just reminded me of one, I get lots of feedback from people, but one lady that was heading up a big charity, and she had to perform last Christmas, and instead of doing the normal read out, boring, she agreed to be a little bit more creative. So, going back to where I started, you need your authentic self and you need your performance self, is when you work with the senior leaders that get that and they're ready to put a bit of personality in it and perform to their role, that's when the magic happens. And, she did it beautifully. And then they tell me, oh, my gosh, I so enjoyed this. So something that used to be dread, they then go, this is so much fun.
What a win.
Yeah.
What a win.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your
You're
time.
welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Loved
and
it.
you've shared so many insights.
I hope it helps people. Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Margo.